Right now, without feeling a thing, you're moving. At the equator, the Earth spins at about 1,670 kilometers per hour, roughly 465 meters every single second. That's faster than a rifle bullet. The atmosphere moves with you. The oceans move with you. Your coffee sits still in its cup because everything around it is traveling at that same impossible speed, all locked together, all moving as one. You've never felt it, not once in your life. Try to remember a single moment when you sense the planet turning beneath you. A lurch, a breeze, anything. There isn't one. The motion is so perfectly shared by everything you touch that it's completely invisible. Every human who has ever lived spent their entire existence riding a spinning ball at 1,600 kilometers an hour and never noticed. That's strange if you think about it. If we're all moving that fast, why can't we feel it? And what would happen the instant that motion stopped? Not the orbit around the sun, just the spin. What if the Earth stopped rotating for 5 seconds, then started again? Start with the reason you can't feel it in the first place, because it's the same reason the answer is so horrifying. In 1632, Galileo described what we now call inertia, the principle that anything moving in a straight line keeps moving unless something stops it. You feel this every time a bus brakes hard and your body pitches forward. Your body didn't decide to lurch. It was still moving because nothing had told it to stop. Now scale that up. Everything on Earth's surface is moving at 465 meters per second sideways. If the ground beneath you suddenly halted and you didn't, you would keep going at that speed. The one-liner is brutal. It's not the stopping that kills you. It's that you don't stop with it. Which brings us to the first 5 seconds, and they are not survivable. If the solid Earth froze, but you kept your momentum, you and everything not bolted to bedrock, cars, buildings, people, topsoil, the entire contents of the world, would be flung eastward at roughly 1,600 kilometers per hour. That's the speed of a passenger jet at cruising altitude, except at ground level, through trees and concrete. Everything not anchored to the mantle would be scraped off the surface and hurled sideways in an instant. The one-liner writes itself. The planet would stop, and the world sitting on top of it wouldn't. But the ground is only the beginning. There's something else, and it's above your head. The atmosphere is also moving at that same 1,600 kilometers per hour. Air has almost no grip on rock, so when the surface stopped, the air wouldn't. It would keep howling eastward as a global wind faster than any storm in Earth's history. The most powerful hurricane ever recorded topped out near 305 kilometers per hour, and this would be 5 times that everywhere on the planet at once. Winds like that don't just level cities. They generate friction so intense the air itself would heat up, scouring and igniting the surface as it tore across it. The one-liner. The sky would become a blowtorch moving at the speed of sound. And still we haven't reached the worst of it. There's the water. The oceans carry the most momentum of anything on Earth, and water doesn't hold together the way rock does. When the crust stopped, the oceans would keep moving, sloshing eastward in mega-tsunamis with no shoreline high enough to stop them. Entire seas would climb over continents. In 1958, in Lituya Bay, Alaska, a landslide triggered a wave that stripped forest off a mountainside up to 524 meters high, the tallest wave ever measured. That was one bay from one rockfall. Now picture the entire Pacific carrying the momentum of a jetliner, refusing to stop when the land under it does. The one-liner. The ground has friction to slow it. The ocean has almost none, and it remembers exactly how fast it was going. Now, the skeptic has an obvious objection, and it's a good one. The Earth is slowing down already. So doesn't that prove a stop would be survivable? It proves the opposite. The Earth genuinely is decelerating, thanks to tidal friction from the moon, first measured through ancient eclipse records and confirmed by modern atomic clocks. But the rate is almost incomprehensibly gentle. The day lengthens by roughly 1.7 milliseconds per century. 2,000 years ago, a day was about a 50th of a second shorter. That's the entire point. Life survives Earth's slowdown precisely because it takes hundreds of millions of years, so slow that everything, air, ocean, your own body, stays perfectly in sync with the ground. The gradual version is invisible. The sudden version is apocalyptic. Same motion, opposite outcomes, and the only difference is time. That's not a counterexample. That's the rule confirming itself. It was never the speed that mattered. It was whether everything changed together. And here's where the strange part comes in. Humans sensed the danger of a stopped sky long before physics could explain it. In the book of Joshua, the sun is commanded to stand still, and it reads as a miracle so enormous it defines the story. Norse myth imagined Ragnarok, the world's motion collapsing into fire and flood. Mesoamerican African cultures performed ritual after ritual specifically to keep the sun moving, terrified of the day it might stop. Across civilizations with no contact whatsoever, the same instinct kept surfacing, that a sky which stopped turning meant the end of everything. They had no idea about inertia or angular momentum. They just knew, somewhere deep, that motion was the thing holding the world together. So the answer isn't one catastrophe. It's inertia stacking on top of a supersonic atmosphere, stacking on top of oceans that climb the continents, all pointing the same direction. The Earth stopping for 5 seconds wouldn't be a pause. It would be the surface of the planet, the air, and the sea all continuing forward at 1,600 kilometers an hour while the rock beneath them didn't. A 5-second erasure of nearly everything living on it. You've spent your whole life moving at the speed of a bullet and never felt it. That's not luck. That's the only thing keeping you alive. The day you finally feel the Earth move is the day it stops. That's about 1,120 words. The physics anchors are all real. The 670 km per hour equatorial spin, Galileo, and inertia, 1632. Patricia's 305 km per hour record winds. The 1958 Latia Bay wave, 524 m/1,720 feet, and the moon's tidal breaking lengthening the day by 1.7 ms/century. One honest note for publishing. The then started again part is doing a lot of quiet work. A restart would add a second apocalypse, and the whole scenario is physically impossible to begin with. There's no mechanism that could stop and restart a planet.